Welcome to Snackscast Episode 5. Today I get to sit down with the three founders of Girls Rugby Inc. and discuss what it means to them to develop programming that gives young girls an opportunity to choose rugby as their sport at an early age. We talk about the different locations they've started in California, Colorado, and Oregon. We talk about the organization's growth potential as well as the unexpected results that they've had in year one, and also what the future holds for the organization as it's an exciting initiative that's one of the best around. I really hope you enjoy the show as much as I enjoyed talking with Jenn Heinrich, Hannah Harper, and Erin Kennedy. On today's episode of the Snackscast, I have the women behind a great initiative, Girls Rugby Inc. I have the founders online with me today, so if you could introduce yourselves, that'd be great.
Okay, I'm Jenn Heinrich and one of the co-founders of Girls Rugby Inc. I've been working in rugby for the past 16 years, primarily with Rugby Oregon, which is the foundational model for state rugby organizations in the U.S. I currently sit on the Youth and High School Committee for USA Rugby and Congress as a youth and high school member, and also the newly formed USA Rugby Governance Restructure Committee. And been working also on Girls Rugby Inc., obviously, for the past year.
And I'm Erin Kennedy. I also am a co-founder of Girls Rugby. I've worked in rugby development for the last 10 years with USA Rugby, Rugby Americas North, Rugby Canada. I've done some work with the Olympic Committee in Switzerland. And as Jenn mentioned, we got together a year ago and decided to co-found Girls Rugby. So that's been most of my time now.
And I'm Hannah Harper. I've been in the rugby world for the last decade. I actually started playing rugby when Jenn was running Rugby Oregon back in the days. Played for the, that's where I fell in love with rugby too. So played for the Eagles for a couple years, retired now. I've been working for a couple organizations from Atavist Institute of Rugby, and now full-time focusing on girls rugby. And yeah, working with Jenn and Erin. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. I'd like to start and just ask, what's the motivation behind starting Girls Rugby Inc.?
Yeah, so as we mentioned, we met a year ago, and prior to this, as you heard from our backgrounds, we've been working in rugby for collectively a very long time. And over the work that we've done, we've worked in the youth area, in the high school area, and a lot of what we were seeing was that young girls were not finding the game. And in all the work that we've been doing, it was just getting harder and harder to attract more girls to find the sport of rugby. And we knew the benefits that rugby could bring to anyone's life, and then specifically to a young girl's life. So we got together a year ago and locked ourselves in a room for 2 days and said, well, we want to change the world, and how do we do it? So what does that look like? And we started talking about many different ways that we could build a business around getting more girls into the game and helping to make an impact on their lives. So we decided that we wanted to do girls specific programming, because when we looked at the numbers, when we looked at USA Rugby's numbers just a few years ago, there's only 1,000 girls playing flag rugby in the United States. And the number of active boys in rugby, and also just active across all sports, is significantly higher than the number of active girls. So we looked at that number and we said, let's give them an environment where they're going to come into the game and they're going to stay into the game. So that really led us to create girl-specific programming, and we use a values-based curriculum. So we're giving girls more than just rugby in everything that we're doing. And we decided we're going to launch it and try some pilots this year. So we had 3 pilots kick off, and that was really the motivation to start doing what we wanted to do.
Okay, for those who don't know, where are the 3 pilot locations?
So the 3 pilot locations are in Colorado, Oregon, and Southwest Washington, and in San Diego.
Okay, now in each of those areas, is there one program in each area, or are there multiple depending on the site?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we first started out in Colorado, we were focused on Glendale and kind of a strategic partnership that we developed there. And the great news was that we expanded beyond that. So we wound up in 3 locations in Colorado. We had a similar thing happen in Oregon. So Oregon and Colorado have already completed, and San Diego is taking off next month. So in Oregon, we started with a focus on greater Portland area, and then we wound up expanding up into Vancouver and Battleground in Southwest Washington, and then all the way down to Corvallis and Albany. So kind of exceeded our expectations in those areas. But that was, an awesome result to have. And then in San Diego, right now, we're focused on 7 different locations in San Diego.
San Diego is actually close to my heart. My daughter played in, Hannah's first one. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, well, I get a little emotional because rugby development is sort of now my passion project. Obviously, having been in Minnesota, and Jenn, that's where you and I met.
Right.
But the second I saw this, I thought it was an amazing initiative, in San Diego. And now that it's growing, it's awesome to see. So, congratulations on the multiple locations to start out with. Sorry, I got a little.
That's great. No, we're emotional too. It's okay.
Sports, yay, sports.
Yeah. Yes.
So, let's talk a little bit about the expansion for a second. Okay. How did you facilitate sort of that growth organically? How did you find coaches? I've seen some leadership coaching training online. So could you maybe walk me through how that's looking at the moment?
Sure. So we've created our own coaching and refereeing training. So it's our leadership training, which is probably what you've seen online, which we did 3 different trainings for each pilot location. And to speak from the Colorado side of things, we had partnerships with like different entities. So like Glendale, for example, we really wanted to have a program there, especially with the HSBC Sevens event that came to town this past fall. We really wanted to get something going there. So I worked with Glendale Youth Rugby, and they provided coaches from the WPL program at Glendale. And then we actually had, as Jenn mentioned, Colorado Rush put their hand up. They said, we want to give back to the community. We want to start something. So a lot of our coaches and referees came from clubs or the groups that were basically our partners in our programs. And then I know similar things within Oregon and San Diego, but I'll let Jenn kind of chat about where some of our coaches and referees came from in Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah, so in Oregon, we were kind of a little bit of a hybrid. We had a couple of people that were already involved in the girls' game in our Rugby Oregon programming who expressed an interest in being involved in the fall programming. We run opposite seasons to Rugby Oregon. And then I think probably the most exciting thing for me and probably for Hannah and Erin is to see the young girls that are currently still in our programs and that are coming out of our programs or have come out of our programs that have gotten involved in giving back, and kind of the difference that they're making as just incredible mentors to the younger girls. So we have quite a few of our high school girls. Most of the referees that we had this season, all but one, refereed in are still participating in our high school league and are refereeing in our girls rugby league. So that's a really cool thing to see, that the women and girls coming out of our programming are now giving back in the same way. So it's pretty powerful thing to see.
And I'd add just to that, Snacks, is that we also are now now that we've completed in Colorado and Oregon, we did ask in the survey afterwards, see like, are parents interested in joining and helping out with coaching and refereeing? And we got a lot of positive responses. Some of the coaches that you'll see in the San Diego program, their parents, their daughters wanted to join, and they said, well, we need a coach, we're going to help, which is fantastic. We also have some of our USA Eagles in the San Diego area. So we have Martin Iasefo and I'm going to pronounce her last name wrong, but Devin, I don't know.
O'Shanney.
Yes, there we go.
Devin O'Shanney.
I always pronounce that wrong. So we have a few of them as well getting involved in the program, wanting to give back with coaching or refereeing, it's fantastic to see.
That's awesome. Giving back to the game is something I think all of us see at multiple levels. So to see that continue from the high school age kids jumping into mentor the young girls, that is just really inspiring. How many? I have so many questions, obviously. in terms of goals, did you set some goals as an organization early on, or did you want to do like a beta test year one and see where it went and then determine goals? What are you looking at in terms of strategic planning and goals with the organization?
Yeah, so we had our strategic plan initially and kind of have been checking back in just to see where we're at. And in terms of kind of the numbers in our pilot programming, we're hitting our numbers, which is exciting to see, and probably exceeding that as well. So and we had numbers for ourselves in terms of player participation, but also our coaches and referees. So we've exceeded in the number of coaches and referees that we've trained. So far, we're up to 35 coaches and referees. Kind of a cool statistic there as well as we've got 23 females that are doing our coaching and refereeing. So 65% of our coaches and refs are female, which is exciting for us as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and part of the pilot programming, as you kind of alluded to, part of the pilot programming, right, was to identify what are the things that are working, test some things out, figure out our marketing strategies, what's attracting people to the game, how are we bringing them in, how are they hearing about us, what are we doing right, and really taking kind of a deep dive into a survey at the end of the season to our parents and to our players, obviously only in Oregon and Colorado at this point. San Diego's not kicked off yet, but getting great feedback from them in terms of what's working, what's not working, kind of reaffirming the things that we felt like were really working and saying, okay, and here's an area where we need to improve so that we can take those lessons and then roll them out with strategic partners across the country. Because clearly accessibility, right, and making this available to more and more girls across the country is something that's extremely important to us. And so how we do that, we want to make sure that whoever those strategic partners are can learn from what we've done already and help them to be as successful as possible as we go forward. So yeah.
Accessibility, that's awesome. And that sort of leads me into another question I have. Are we going to see any new cities coming up in 2019 or 2020? How does that look?
Absolutely. We're figuring that out now, right? So we want to make sure that the way that we grow it is the right way, and that we're going to be able to sustain that programming. So I'd say we have a list of a lot of people interested and a lot of areas where this could absolutely be successful. And we're just strategically thinking about it now on where those places are. But I think I'd say I could confidently say that you're going to see a couple new locations in 2019 for sure.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. The accessibility factor is great. I actually, the three of you have probably heard this before, but Mike Lovinggoose, 6 kids and a pizza, right?
Yeah.
And that I actually was talking with somebody the other day and said that, and they were shocked to hear that. And I was like, well, it's that easy, right? You need 4 or 5 people, 6 people, and a ball or a pizza, and you get going. And so it's great to see that more people are reaching out to you and saying that they're interested to get it going. Is there a way? What's the best method? Say there's somebody that you haven't heard from. What's the best method for them to get in contact and to say, hey, we'd like to be considered at some point?
Yeah, I think the easiest way right now would be to check out our website, so girlsrugbyinc.com, and we have our information on there. You can send us an email, info@girlsrugbyinc.com, and that way we can just start the conversation and see what kind of program we want to start up and kind of work out the logistics that way. But we would love to take more inquiries on where we want to bring this, because I think obviously it's the people that want to have it in their area, that's what's going to make it successful. So that would be the best way to get in touch.
Okay. And so, man, there's so many good things. I honestly, how did you develop? So your coaching, refereeing, and leadership certifications. How did you go about developing those? I'd like to come back to that for a second.
Sure, and I'll speak to that. So one of piece of my background. So I am a World Rugby educator, and I've worked in the 10 years of working within rugby. I've managed and developed programs like Rookie Rugby, Try On Rugby, and things like that for USA Rugby Canada and our region. And in all the experience in kind of program development and training and education that I've had within that, is I put together the pieces that I've seen over the years that are most important to help prepare our coaches and referees for those roles. Okay. And one of our partners is USA Rugby, and we utilize a lot of the rookie rugby curriculum with our programs. So we get to teach all of our coaches how to implement the flag rugby piece of the game. And then what we've added on top of that is our values piece, which is our values-based curriculum, to make sure that we are giving girls more than just rugby. And we work on, it's just a short training over the course of half a day, and get to prepare those individuals for their roles throughout the season.
Oh, okay. Speaking of values-based, does the organization have core values?
Yes, we have 7 foundational values that our organization is built on. It spells the acronym LEADERS. So we have leadership, empowerment, achievement, development, enjoyment, respect, and sportsmanship.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I just had obviously a conversation with Katie from the Amazons, and we talked all about how they got to that process. So team culture and values and core values for organizations is really interesting to me. So that's pretty cool.
And the feedback that we got from the parents with the surveys that Jenn was mentioning, the feedback on the values piece, it was massive. It was really important that their daughters were getting these different values each week, and a different one, and able to apply it in their life outside of rugby. So that was a really big positive feedback that we got from all the parents and the girls as well in our program.
Okay. Could you give me an example of how they sort of maybe taught that leadership value or the value that, like, is it weekly? Is it by practice? How did that work?
Yeah, so we provide a curriculum for all of our coaches, and allow them some flexibility to be creative within that. But we do give them a template of everything that they can offer each week, and each week each practice day that they have, they're given a different value. So it ends up being about a weekly value. So each week is a different value that they bring into practice, and then we give them the creativity to implement it in how they'd like. But I can give you an example of just our local program was they called it the word of the week, and they got to learn about the value on the Tuesday. And then when they came for games later in the week, they had to bring an example of how they use that value in their life. And then you have little girls talking about how, they learned about respect, and then they went to school and saw one of their friends being bullied, and they actually they wanted to show respect, so they stood up for their friend, and they stepped into the conversation or something like that. And it was just these really powerful moments that these little girls who are 7, 8, 9 years old are incorporating in their life because of rugby, which I think is really awesome.
That's pretty cool. Have there been any other examples of off the field translation from the lessons learned, if I'm saying that in a way to understand? So sort of like you see the girls get the values-based training, and then anything else off the field that has caught your attention or you thought was pretty cool?
I don't know if I have a great example like Erin's. I think that's just like epitomizes exactly why we're doing what we're doing. But I think just kind of some of the feedback you talked about, the survey that we did, the feedback that we're getting from the parents. I'm just kind of looking through our results here, and just how we have almost 100% of our parents in both Oregon and Colorado who gave us a 5 out of 5 in terms of that playing rugby helped their daughter to become more confident. And so that's an amazing statistic, just to hear that, okay, in one season of rugby, you believe that this is making a difference in your child's life and helping them to become more confident, because it's an interesting time, right? Whether you're a third grader or a middle schooler. I mean, particularly in that middle school age group, we had an incredible group of middle school girls in Oregon who were so gracious to each other, and also gracious and good role models to the younger group. So I don't know, this isn't so much off the pitch because it's still on the pitch, but just watching our middle school group interact with our younger group. And so when they would get done with their games, being on the sideline and offering encouragement and cheering them on, rather than just kind of going off and doing their own thing, but being engaged and understanding that you also serve as a role model for the younger groups, and being there to cheer them on and to cheer their successes and to pick them up and kind of do all of those things is just pretty powerful to see a culture that's developing like that. So that'd be another example, I guess, here in Oregon as well.
Oh, that's awesome. And
yeah.
For those that don't know, how long is a girls' rugby season?
So the season is 7 weeks. So we've got,
Okay.
we typically start the week prior, and then we run 5 weeks of kind of competition. So we don't actually have awards at the end of our season. The end of our season culminates in a parent daughter day, which actually, I don't know if this happened as well in Colorado, Erin, but we had parents, siblings and daughters that were out there. So the kids were like, well, we want to participate as well. And it was just phenomenal, right? So it's like that we were celebrating our community, we were celebrating our program, we were celebrating getting out there and playing together, and then afterwards kind of did the traditional big social and all that good stuff as well. So yeah.
Wow. Do you think you'll be capturing some more participants in that manner? I mean, obviously you see it radiated out past the parents, right, to siblings and to some other friends. Do you have any projections for this next cycle coming up of like what the growth might look like?
I mean, obviously we want to continue to grow. I think
Mhm.
for Erin's actually got some programming. Her program is going to continue in the spring. We are going to take the spring off because we have Rugby Oregon programming.
Okay.
But we already are aware of new locations that want to pop up in both of our communities. So I think that's where we're going to see the growth. I think we'll see the numbers continue to grow in the programs that exist. And then we're identifying kind of new areas, and we've got new coaches that want to come in and be engaged and involved and help us start new programming in the area. So I think it'll just add to that base that we've already created. So it'll be interesting to see, how does that, and what's the best way to grow that, right? And where
Mhm.
how do we do that outreach? And a lot of it is organic, but then continuing to do some outreach on our own as well.
Okay.
And I think to add to that, one of the things that we've seen is we knew that our product was great, but we hadn't had anything to show for it. So in kind of promoting our first pilots, we kept telling everyone, we promise this is going to be great. And now that we've actually had that first season, at least with the Colorado and Oregon programs, and
Mhm.
soon to add San Diego to that, now we've shown that it's great. And the parents have just been, they're actually coming up to us saying, do you have more flyers that I can put in, I'm going to put them in my
Mm.
daughter's school. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put it there. And they're really becoming our biggest advocates because they've seen the effects that it's having on their daughter. And then now they want to, they want to see it successful, and they want to see more girls involved.
Mm.
So I think you're going to see that it will grow rather quickly because we're proving that this is something that you want to invest in, that you want to be a part of. And I think that's going to help with our growth.
uh, you can never underestimate the value of the parent network. Like
Yeah.
it is amazing to see how fast things grow just through their conversations with one another. So that's amazing that the word's getting spread that way.
Oh
Is
yeah.
there any other method or sort of outlet you found through your surveys that getting your marketing message out? Is social media? Is it obviously word of mouth we've talked about? But is there any other thing that sort of stood out for you in terms of getting the message across effectively?
I think what was interesting was, and I don't know if you caught, Hannah did a piece in San Diego on the news, and that the response to that has been pretty massive as well. So having that morning segment, and I know we all kind of have that those opportunities in our local communities. So that's one of the things that we're talking about. It was interesting to see how many new people came into the program in San Diego based off of that one morning show, broadcast. So that was pretty exciting.
Hannah, did you have fun filming that?
Yes, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. It was a little dark in the morning, but we figured it out. It was a good time.
Yeah, they usually want those pretty early, huh?
Yeah, we were there about 6 o'clock, but the girls were excited, engaged, and parents were pumped, so it was a good time.
That's awesome.
And
Hannah,
we
could you?
we had an increase in registration right after that happened, which
Yeah.
was great. So obviously it was being seen and girls were excited. So we got like 3 or 4 registrations just that day, just from people seeing it on the news.
Oh, that's awesome. Hannah,
Mm.
could you maybe just for a second talk about the different locations you'll have in San Diego? My numbers on my first two shows show that San Diego is pretty popular. So maybe that
Hmm.
we could reach out to a couple people. Where are you going to have some teams at there?
Yeah, so we have locations from San Marcos all the way down to Chula Vista. So San Marcos, Encinitas, Carmel Valley, Forest Ranch, Ocean Beach, Spring Valley, and Chula Vista. So kind of touching all the main pockets of San Diego as much as we can.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, we're trying to cover the whole area. So that's where we are right now. The goal is that each of those locations would hopefully become its own girls rugby program, that they wouldn't have to travel to play against the other locations. So stage one is getting them established in those cities, and then hopefully we can start growing each of those cities to be its own girls rugby program.
And for those that don't know, when is this going to kick off?
It actually kicks off next week. So first practices are next week. First games the week after. So registration's open. It'll stay open probably for the first few weeks of the season. So if girls want to come try it out, see if it's the right fit for them, they can do that. If they can't be there next week because they're on vacation for Thanksgiving or whatever, they can sign up later. But each of those locations have coaches, have players, and so we're just trying to fill them out and get some more girls out there.
Okay. That is awesome. So because we're sort of a delay in releasing the episode, we're on the 19th, I believe, of November. So next week for us would be the week after Thanksgiving?
Yeah, the 26th of November is the first week of practice.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. I just want to make sure people don't feel like they've missed anything or they come a week late. So
yep.
No, that's awesome. And I'll tell you what, this is one of the coolest things I've seen in rugby in the last couple years. And I'm in awe of just how great this has been. And I can't wait to see what it looks like in the future. Maybe we shift gears a little bit here. And I just want to maybe talk for a second about things you all are excited about outside of Girls Rugby Inc. and maybe things you see that you may want to talk about or acknowledge.
Sure, I'll jump in first.
Okay.
Something I did not mention when I introduced myself, one of the other things that I'm really excited about is I actually am the author of a rugby children's book. So I have a book called The Value of Rugby. So speaking on how important we think the values are, we now have a book written for kids around 8 to 10 years old. And it highlights a rookie rugby team, and there's 5 little mini stories on each character, and they teach the 5 core values as set by World Rugby. So you have solidarity, respect, integrity, discipline, and passion. And kids can actually read about other little rookie rugby players who are playing flag rugby and learning about the values of the game at the same time. So that's it's something that I just want to get out in the community, and just because I know there's not a lot of rugby books out there for kids, and that's something that I'm excited about, especially the upcoming holiday season. So they make great gifts.
Where can people find this book at?
They can find it on my it's a Etsy store, so I do ship worldwide, and it's valueofrugby.com. And right now we're actually doing a partnership with USA Rugby where you can get a rookie rugby ball and a book, and the profits from those sales actually go back to help youth development across the United States.
Oh, that's awesome. I've known a couple people that have attempted to write some books, a couple in the children's arena. What was something in your learning process that you were surprised by in trying to write the book?
I was surprised that my language is not it's a little bit more complicated than what maybe a fifth grader needs. So trying to find the right language to be able to teach values, especially some of these values are not the simplest of values. So I think throughout the process, it was the reason this book came about was all the work that I've done over the last 10 years. The feedback I kept getting was teaching rugby is great, but we need to focus on the culture of the game, and we need to focus on the values piece. So do we have something like that for kids? And we didn't. And surprisingly, around the world, there's very little out there that actually teaches the values of rugby. So in coming up through that, it was, how do I find a unique way that, to meet kids where they're at, and thought that a children's book would be a great vehicle. And actually Hannah's sister did the illustrations, and they're absolutely fantastic. And I think that the feedback so far is that kids really love it. They can relate to it. It's very diverse, so it's about having kids see themselves in that story. But it was definitely a challenge in finding the right language within that. But after that, and once we got the awesome illustrations and all of that, it was kind of smooth sailing from there.
Oh, that's really cool. Hope some people check that out. Jenn, is there anything you're excited about?
I just there isn't one thing that completely stands out for me right now, other than, I mean, this has just been kind of an incredible year, obviously getting girls rugby off the ground. But just, my nose is always to the grind with Rugby Oregon, and kind of all the work that we're doing there. We've got our Leadership Academy, which is kind of one of the coolest parts of what we get to do. And in terms of bringing kids in and giving them some leadership and training and education. So that's coming up for me after the turn of the year. But I do want to jump back. There's one thing that I want to add, because I think we'd be remiss if I did not say this, but I just wanted to say one of the critical components of our organization and kind of our success in this first year of program, or this first pilot programming series, has been the incredible support that we've gotten from our sponsors. So I just want to kind of go back to that, if you don't mind, and just kind of give a nod to some of the folks that without whom we wouldn't probably be sitting here having this conversation, because it truly takes a village. And the support that we got from USA Rugby, from World Rugby Shop, from our national sponsor, the Pickle Juice Company, and then we had a couple of local sponsors, Western Partitions Inc. here in Oregon, and then also Falcon West Insurance in San Diego. So I guess I'm excited for them. I'm excited that they're around and that they believed in our mission and vision and kind of the dream that we were, the dream we were dreaming, that they said, hey, we want to support that dream and that vision and help you bring it to reality. So just wanted to give them a little thanks and a little nod. So.
You know what? One of the coolest things I saw on your social media this year was the Pickle Juice Player of the Week.
Yes, yes.
I was talking with Logan, who's I believe in your Superior location.
Yes,
if I'm not
in
correct.
Colorado.
She said the kids absolutely love the pickle juice. And she wasn't a fan because taste or whatever, but she was like, the kids love it. So that was pretty cool to see.
They absolutely love it. And it was a lifesaver. We had our fall sevens on the Rugby Oregon side. We had a referee that cramped up and somebody ran him out some pickle juice, and it did the trick. So, we were serving a purpose. And so, yeah, he was very grateful.
There's no better promoter than evidence-based.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right.
Hannah, how about you? Anything you're looking forward to or anything in rugby?
I have a 3-month-old, so that's taking up most of my time. But besides that, it's really just focusing on girls rugby, and making sure that rolls out successfully here in San Diego, and then focusing on that as the three of us come together to think about what's next for the organization. So that's pretty much all the time I have is for girls rugby with my little one. But we're having a lot of fun.
I got to be honest, Katie was watching your story this morning of the baby laughing, and it's really not fair that your kid is so cute, and you're putting undue pressure on the rest of us. Just throwing that out there.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry, Snacks. Sorry.
It's okay. Hey, cute babies and puppies, just do it, right? Like everybody loves puppies and babies. No, this has been a great chance to talk with the three of you, and like we've said in our emails and stuff, each of you is deserving of your own show, and I really hope you consider that, because it would be cool to just sort of see where you're at individually, a little bit down the road. Is there any parting thoughts or shout outs, anything you all want to say before we sort of conclude this episode?
I'd just say, just a huge thanks to both you, Snacks, for putting this on, but then also to everybody else who's been following. I think we get a lot of feedback that, people are loving our social media. They're loving what we're doing. And just a huge thank you, because we really appreciate, because the more we can get the word out, the more that we can get more girls playing the game and change the world. So just a huge thanks to all our followers.
Yeah, agree with that.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and sign off the show for today. And thank you for being on board, and thank you for changing the world one girl at a time.
Thanks, Max.